Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Raising Healthy Mothers. I'm going to paint a scene for you that may feel really familiar because it was definitely a scene that I recognised from even just a year ago. It's 4:37 p.m. and you are on the third reheat of the same cup of tea again. And you know that it's not going to taste very nice, but you're determined to drink at least one cup of tea right to the end. You've got a child crying, maybe one's bored, someone's already asking what's for dinner, they're asking for a snack. And you think, okay, it's 20 minutes early, but I'm just going to put the telly on anyway, because it is actually just going to give me 10 minutes of space before I start screaming at everyone. Because you just want to think without being asked to play 3 different games all at once. And then you go, right, I'm going to go in and cook dinner. And you open the fridge. There's that butternut squash that you bought with good intentions. There's that chicken that you had planned to roast earlier in the week and never got around to. You've got the ingredients, but none of it feels like a meal that you actually have the capacity to cook for right now. Your brain is fried and your body is tired and your chest starts to tighten because you feel so guilty that you're probably going to reach into the freezer again. Or maybe you'd have just enough capacity to cobble something together and hope they eat just one bite without you having to resort to offering toast again, just so that they'll eat something. And you're probably going to sit down at dinner time thinking, I should have tried harder again today. I should have done better. I'll try again tomorrow. But here's the thing. What you've got right there isn't a chaotic household. You're not disorganized and you're definitely not lazy. You're not doing it wrong. You're just at complete capacity. And cooking for dinner comes at a time that is the absolute final test of your emotional resilience. And some nights, maybe most nights, it feels that you are failing that test because you wanted to be that mum who cooked from scratch, who made food that felt like love, who sat down together in calmness, in control. You felt connection together and you cleaned up together. You had children that felt that responsibility to be a part of a family that would do things like that together. But 5 o'clock always feels like that final straw of patience and decision making. And maybe you're starting to think, well, maybe something's wrong with me. You've Googled perimenopause more than once. Maybe you've been to the GP and they were told, no, you're too young for it. Come back in 5 years' time. Maybe you've seen posts on Instagram about the supplements that you have to be taking now that you're over 40. Or maybe you've heard all the discussions about all the protein that you should be eating or the strength training that you should be doing. And you're thinking, how the heck am I supposed to fit all of that in when I can't even get dinner together without resorting to toast and beans again? And you're thinking, well, maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I need to do something. But the thing is, you don't even sure what you're asking because the question isn't just about weight or willpower or hormones. It's deeply emotional. It's why can't I get on top of this? Why do I always feel behind? Why does something I care so much about feel so hard? And why does everyone else look like they've got it all together? And beneath all of it is, well, maybe this is just the way it is. Look, this isn't about blame. It's about understanding the context because parenting in your late 30s or in your 40s with kids under 7 is a very specific terrain. And no one warned you about this intersection of energy, expectations, and emotional load. You're not just tired, you're completely stretched in 100 different directions. You've got logistics and moods and meals and needs all at once and absolutely no pause button. And maybe you do have a supportive partner, maybe you even have in-laws that live close by that can help out sometimes. You know, this isn't about bashing the support network that you have, but you are still the one that holds the shape of the day. You are still ultimately the default parent. You're the one having to think ahead, the one absorbing and preempting and regulating and knows exactly what that child needs. You know, you've been on since someone climbed into your bed at 3:30 this morning. It's now 5 o'clock and your nervous system is not just tired, it's completely wrung out. And the problem is, this is the cost of being excellent at what you do. You are a brilliant mother. But the problem is, no one sees how much it actually takes from you to be that amazing mum. And if you are craving sugar or carbs or even looking at that bottle of wine and wondering if it's too early, it doesn't mean that you're weak or have a problem or you're undisciplined. It means that your body is telling you that it needs something to pep it up. Your body is doing its best to buffer the depletion, the deep depletion that has been going on ever since you first fell pregnant. And it's also trying to create a moment of something good, something easy, something you don't have to think about. And here is the one thing I know is probably true. you haven't eaten enough today. You've probably eaten leftover scraps. Maybe you've eaten crusts for breakfast. Maybe you had the last scraping of soggy cereal from someone's bowl. Maybe you completely skipped lunch or just grabbed something really quick on the way to the school run. Did you feed everyone else and forget about yourself again? And now it's 5 o'clock and you're craving that sugar and the biscuits and the toast and all of that, and your system wants something fast. And you're saying, why do I not have the willpower? Why am I sabotaging myself again? The problem is, it's not sabotage, it's self-preservation. I really don't want you to be beating yourself up for it again. What I know you need is to be fed and to be nourished and to be well looked after. And the thing is, you thought you would be the mum who was really organised, who made all their meals every single night, who had adventurous eaters, who sat down to talk about their day over dinner time. And instead it feels like you're throwing dinner together every single night and hope that no one is going to tell you that they don't like it. You're second guessing every single choice. You're tired of catering to picky eaters who reject everything and then ask for toast. And I know all of this because this was me. And I always used to think maybe a meal plan would help. Maybe if I could just work out what to cook every single week, every single meal, I would feel so much calmer. But then I would sit down and try and write one. And it was like, it would take me hours because I'd feel like, right, I've got to do this properly. I've got to look through all my cookbooks. I've got to find all those recipes that I've saved on Instagram. They've got to be family friendly. So I've got to make sure they actually are going to be food that children are going to want to eat. But what about me? I don't want to eat that. And it just becomes one more thing that is on your to-do list at the weekend that is so busy anyway, is so full. You're living a life that runs on maximum output. And the gap between who you wanted to be and what's actually happening is huge. And that really hurts. This isn't about food. This is about margin, or rather the lack of it. Because the truth is, you're responsible for so much invisible work, and there's no space left for you, for your nourishment, and not just food nourishment, the nourishing you, the thing that makes you feel at capacity again. And when no one's pouring into you, no one's giving you what you need, how are you meant to keep pouring out? I don't think this is about getting older or about your hormones changing or even about the fact that this is just the way motherhood looks in the modern world. It's not about trying hard enough. I think you're just under-supported in a life that requires everything from you. And this has become your new normal. Over the last 5, 6, 7, 8, how many years, dinner has felt hard. And it's not just dinner, it's everything. Everything feels hard. You don't need to fix this with more effort. You don't need to completely change all of your meals, and you definitely don't need a 14-step system, and you don't need to follow someone else's meal plan that is designed for their family, that is family friendly to them, but not yours. You need one thing that makes dinner feel less hard. One thing that helps you feed yourself and your family without feeding your own resentment. One thing that takes the weight out of that 5 o'clock crash so you feel capable, not completely defeated. And for me, that really changed when I stopped thinking, what should I feed my children? And started thinking, what do I want to eat? What are the meals that actually make me feel good? And then I'd be like, well, what I used to cook before I had children was quite complicated and complex. Why? Because I had the time, I had the energy, and I had the headspace for it. So what about I just work out what are the meals that I really like eating and all the flavors that I like, and then fitting that into formulas so that I can cook without having to look up recipes, so that I know that the food that I'm cooking is actually going to feed me, but also is going to cater for my children as well. And that's actually how I came up with the hassle-free template meals. It was a way for me to just have a quick, at a glance, formula framework to cook meals without having to look up all the recipes all the time. And in fact, without even really properly planning them in, I would just be like, well, what have we got on for this week? What do I need to bear in mind? And what are the flavors that I want to eat this week? And remembering what I used to enjoy made a huge difference. And so then I created those frameworks, 6 flexible meal templates, so that I had everything I needed without having to actually look at the recipe. And what I was able to do was, with each meal template, I came up with 7 completely different flavors that spoke to me. And ultimately, when I was writing the hassle-free template meals, what I realized was I actually had enough ideas for 42 meals. That's 7 weeks. I had essentially created a 7-week meal plan without actually meaning to. without a recipe. So it is a guide to help you make food decisions without having to use your last brain cell that just feels like it's not there. It's really not for mums who have it together. It's not for mums who already meal plan, who know exactly how they feed their children. It's for the ones who are still showing up even when they feel like they're falling behind and beating themselves up for it. Look, I don't believe right now that you need a complicated meal plan. You just need one that meets you where you are. So if dinner has become the hardest part of your day, then the hassle-free template meals are for you. If that sounds exactly what you need, the link is in the show notes. Take what helps, leave what doesn't, make it work for you and your family, and know that you are already doing more than enough. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Raising Healthy Mothers. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye for now.